Hey there, cats and kitties. I am the Blues Man, Johnny Blues, and I gotta tell you flat out, if you're not watching the series Riverdale, which is currently in its second season, you are thoroughly, thoroughly missing out. The writing on this show is insanely good. It's a very soap opera-y, kind of like a teenage soap opera kind of thing, but it's all ages. It's really for all ages because you have adults, coinciding with the teenage, high school kid characters and everything like that. The show is insane. It's insanely good, but it is insane. The writing is spectacular. I just caught up with, as of the time of this recording, the latest episode, which was episode 13 of season 2. I believe it was titled The Telltale Heart. And it's just like the way everything ramped up in this episode, as the show had gone on a mid-season hiatus and was dealing with a, murderer killer, sort of character called the Black Hood, I believe. And that was all pretty much wrapped up and closed. That all came to a culmination about the mid-season finale. And so when the show came back, like a whole bunch of other stuff began effectively. Archie Andrews was approached by an FBI agent, hoping to gain information because he has a relationship like this with Veronica Lodge. She is his girlfriend. Her father, Hiram Lodge, has come out of prison. He's very much a part of the show where he was absent in the first season. And, because of his potential ties to organized crime and things like that and the criminal underworld and all of those elements, this Fed wants to try to get information out of Archie because he's that close to her and everything. And maybe he can, sort of exploit that familial tie, that familiarity, and garner some information that he can give to the Fed and whatever like that, under danger of, causing the presumption that maybe Archie's own father, who has had business dealings both, inadvertently and on purpose with the Lodges and has had a relationship sort of with Hermione Lodge, Veronica's mother, and whatever like that. The insinuation is, for all intents and purposes, effectively, if Archie doesn't, correspond to what this Fed wants, get information, dig up information on Hiram, report back to him about any potential criminal activities, then you and your father are going to come under investigation. That's the overhanging threat. And but there's other things too, like Betty, in the absence of Polly, her sister, who's gone off on her own because of the bad blood ties that exist and were revealed earlier on in the series, to do with the Coopers and the Blossoms, and I'm not going to get into all the details about that. Suffice to say, Betty has decided to go digging up in this second season her long-lost brother. Now, she did have a brother in the comics, if I remember correctly, although I only know that through, research I've done. I never encountered any references to Chick, her brother in the comics, that I've read. And for those who have any question as to my Archie comics fandom, just watch my season 1 overview review, where I pulled out a bunch of my comics. Jughead was always my favorite character and everything like that. The one he appealed the most to me because he was the one I found most relatable in being a nonconformist and loving the all-American cheeseburger and all these kinds of things. The only stark difference between he and I in the comic format, is his asexuality, where he's not really that into chicks and everything like that. I was much more Archie. I loved Betty and Veronica and Cheryl and all of them, and that corresponds to my real life. I love all, kinds of chicks and everything like that. Of course, in adulthood, you realize, well, it's a little more complicated than that. I'm strictly speaking, that was my sort of Archie comics based outlook as a teenager, being influenced by not only Archie comics, but the very Archie comics like The Many Loves of Dobie Gillis, which ran reruns when I was in middle school on Nick at Night, a show that I really loved. Bob Denver, before he was ever Gilligan on Gilligan's Island, played Maynard G. Krebs, best chum, best buddy to Dobie Gillis, the main character. And it was a very Archie comic vibe, that show. And so I found through that show, which was out in like the 50s, a sort of televised version of what I would be reading in essentially the Archie comics I would read. But anyway, I digress. This is all about the season 2 episode 13, The Telltale Heart. It seems at the tail end of the previous episode, Betty comes home to find her mother hovering over a dead man. Blood is everywhere, all over their dining room floor. And it is directly the responsibility of her brother Chick, whom she has brought home, to the safety and confines of their house and hearth, and he has singularly not only been the cause of this guy's being killed for whatever reason, Betty's mother's saying self-defense, but it seems like there was maybe more going on there, like he was looking for money from Chick, because apparently he was like a drug dealer or something, and it's very complicated, it's very complex. But for all intents and purposes, Chick's being allowed into the Cooper home has effectively split the parents apart. Hal, her father, is going and having, sort of clandestine meetings with Cheryl's mother and whatever like that. It's all kinds of soap opera. It's all kinds of crazy. But this episode singularly, my sister coined the term that it is throwing WTFs around every other corner, every other turn, every other scene is WTF City, from Betty and her mother deciding to discard the body and try to like drag it out into the like woods, into this pipeline where they're hoping eventually it'll get, in the storm drain, it'll get flushed away or something like that. Betty goes back to the crime scene subsequently because of the guilt of her having participated in trying to bury a body, and she like gets a smartphone off the body and tries to track down if he has any family, and learns about the fact that he's a drug dealer, and that's probably why he was after Chick for whatever reason. Chick lied about it. No, it's just so convoluted and complex. But watching it is emotionally like being on a roller coaster ride. It's just like, why at every other turn? Archie is sort of manhandled by this Fed, who again was introduced when the series came back from its mid-season finale. He comes home and there is the Fed talking to his father, where the Fed had made a promise earlier he would keep Archie's father out of it, not give him a tipping of the hat at all, not threaten the family at all, as long as Archie played along. And because Archie has not been playing along, I mean, poor decisions are running rampant in Riverdale, but especially in this episode. He was given a bug, and the intention was he would go and plant it in Hiram Lodge's sort of place of business, his meeting room, his office. And Archie decided not to go along with that. And, he really seemingly was endangering his own family. He's been going rather to Hiram and explaining all these things, like, Veronica's having reservations about a gangland guy who was found dead. Did Daddy have anything to do with that? She's afraid he must have. And Archie goes and confides this, to Hiram, to her father, leading her father to go and talk to her. And then you have Betty revealing to Jughead, who is kind of like they were together for a little while, and then they split up for a little while, and they're kind of like testing the waters tepidly. So are we going to get back together? Jughead tells Betty over the phone, "I love you." She hangs up on him because they're dealing with discarding a frickin' corpse, But eventually she'll call him for help and confide in him what she and her mother did for Chick and everything like that. Some like patrol woman comes by in a little Cushman, one of those little vehicles, and because there's a strange car that's been parked right across from their house for 2 days. It's just so happens that it's the car belongs to the guy that they dispatched, that they got rid of the body of. So Jughead, just off the top of his head, says, "Okay, well, actually, that's my car. I just lost my keys." She's like, "Well, they're cleaning the streets in the morning. It better be gone when I'm back around here in another 15 minutes or whatever." So Betty apparently has to hotwire the car, and then they pull a psycho. They pull a Norman Bates, and I love the homage. It must have been a deliberate homage to a scene in one of the Psycho movies. In fact, I think it's the first one, but it's not the first time we'll see Norman Bates try to dump a car in a swamp in all of the Psycho movies. But there's this great moment where they pretty much, drive the car out to a swamp or like a lakeside, and they're pushing it in the water. And it's the exact, almost, it's a little bit longer, but it's almost beat for beat the scene in the original Psycho where Norman has pushed the car in the water and it's starting to go down, and then it stops. And it just sort of floats there. And you see the intense sort of reaction on both the faces of Betty and Jughead, but especially Jughead. He's practically doing an Anthony Perkins in that moment. Like, he's like, watching, completely worried. Finally, the car submerges, and then he's like, Betty, the phone. And they throw the phone in the water and everything like that, which incidentally follows on somebody trying to contact, whomever this guy was that the phone belonged to. So I don't know if there's going to be a comeuppance to come at some point after that, somebody is going to come looking for this guy. But effectively, to make matters that much worse, you have Cheryl giving her mother crap because her mother's kind of like the town harlot now, ever since what happened to the family, at the end of season 1. And, but she actually is developing a genuine, seemingly, at least, air quotes, she considers it to be a genuine relationship with Betty's father. And Cheryl is not happy about that. She encountered Betty being remorseful and guilt-ridden and vomiting in the bathroom because of the, discarding the corpse. But she associates it with the fact that, maybe my mother's the home wrecker, and Betty's father's going and having meetings and dealings with my mother behind closed doors. So maybe that's what's affecting her and upsetting her. Betty and her mother eventually, because Jughead got involved helping bury the car, it gets his father, FP, involved, and they're gonna, move the body and use lye or whatever it is to, try to break the body down so it won't be found and everything like that. It's just like everybody is making the most absurdist, horrific, criminal decisions. All of, you think of Archie comics, the purity, the comedy, the lightheartedness, and this show is completely different, but oh my God, for all of that reasoning, it is compelling as all hell. Meanwhile, this is going on. They have the problem of the South Side Serpents going up against the lodges, as well as the mayor, and the mayor who's been getting cushy kickbacks from the lodges, behind the scenes, and a statue is defaced and all this stuff, and Jughead sends the head back to the lodges as a declaration of war. At least that's how they consider it, and all this stuff. He's going to write an expose trying to reveal the mayor's been having these shady deals, and the lodges figure, well, we're going to strike first. We're going to blackmail the mayor, get her out of the running by letting the world know essentially that she's been having an affair with the sheriff, with Kevin Keller's dad, Sheriff Keller. And it's just, this is all the one episode, dude. This isn't the whole of the second season. This is just the one episode. But the piece de resistance, it comes to the very end, and I'm watching it. My sister is beside me. We're both watching it together. We both love watching the show. I literally did one of these, because Archie is picked up by Hiram Lodge's personal driver, and he's brought out to the middle of nowhere. And I'm like, are they going to try to kill him, and Archie's going to self-defense just manage to survive, and all hell's going to, come crashing down all around all of these characters? What's going on here? Because he's supposed to be having a meeting with the boss. The boss is not whom we expect it to be, or although arguably loosely, you could kind of see it coming a little bit. Hermione Lodge is a very strong, independent woman. She's made her way for a very long time on her own while Hiram was in prison all throughout the first season, and such like that, the time she and Veronica spent before coming to Riverdale, all that kind of stuff, which we get, and gather through dialogue, such like that. But apparently the boss I don't know if if this is meant to imply that Hermione's really the brains of the outfit, or if it's to signify the cooperative effort between both she and her husband, the Lodges, as a group, that kind of thing. But essentially, it's she who's waiting for Archie. And spoiler warning, not that I haven't already spoiled half the episode anyway, 3/4 of the episode anyway, but in case you haven't seen it, spoiler warning, or you may, end up going and watching it based on this recommendation. Again, final time, spoiler warning. She lets the other leg drop that the entire arc to do with Archie being pursued by the federal agent, the FBI agent, the Fed, was all a test. Omerta was all a test. If you've ever read the book Omerta by Mario Puzo, who wrote The Godfather, you might know of its Sicilian heritage and that it's kind of a blood oath, a familial oath, and one that dictates silence. Anything that's remotely involved with the family business is not spoken of or dealt with anywhere outside of the family. And it's also kind of a test, which is what apparently they were putting Archie through, bringing him to the bitter end, putting him through these tests, see if he would, at any turn, given the opportunity, would he turn tail and tattletale effectively on Hiram, on the Lodges, on what they were doing, what they were getting up to. They never come clean or reveal. They deny outright. Hiram denies outright and everything like that, whether it's to Archie or whether it's to his own daughter, any involvement in the murder of the opposing gang, enforcer or whatever, gang leader, which is very concerning to Veronica because it's kind of the same old story for her. Her father has been implicated in organized crime and such, slayings before, so of course she's concerned, but they deny all ties, any involvement to do with that. This follows on from one of their business partner families, the son of which was someone who tried to sexually assault both Cheryl Blossom and Veronica at one point. His family ends up getting into a car accident, and he's has both his legs shattered, following on from Hiram's becoming aware that he put his hands on his daughter. So it's not like they're clean, they're full of crap when they say we don't have any involvement. But they really wanted to put Archie to the test, to see if he was loyal, to see if he would be a loyal dog, to see if he would, take any opportunity to screw them over or, make sort of clandestine deals against them and such like that. And all the while, but it's not only the fact that he is proven himself to them as far as his worthiness to criminality. You also have on the other side of that, Veronica goes pointedly to the mayor and says, I'm coming here on behalf of my own good-naturedness, not my family. I'm thinking independently. They want to ruin you. They want to let it, hang out in the breeze that you've been having an affair and it'll ruin your career and everything. But you could get the leg up if you step down willingly ahead of time. Don't give them the opportunity. And that's what the mayor does. And it's so that Veronica herself can run a circle around her parents, achieve what it is they long to achieve, but doing it her own way. And then also undermining their having to be, less than savory in how they would approach trying to ruin a whole, this woman's whole career, her whole life, and making a living and all that kind of stuff. And so it's so complex and so exciting, and so like I said, it's an emotional roller coaster. Every other thing that happens is blowing your mind, and I'm just gobsmacked, and my jaw's constantly falling to the floor, and my sister and I are exchanging looks the whole episode long, like, what the hell, WTF? What are they thinking? What are they doing? And then, like I said, I was gobsmacked, thunderstruck by the end to find that the whole thing with the Fed was a ruse, was just to put Archie to task, take him to task, put him to the test, and see if he actually had unflinching loyalty to the Lodges or not, and was worthy of claiming Veronica's hand. And it's just like, It's insane, but it's so spectacular. It's such a spectacular show. And I just, especially after this latest episode, I had to come on and talk about it and share that with you guys. Anyone who might already be watching it, you know what I'm talking about. But if you're somebody who follows my content who hasn't been, go back and check out my, season 1 overview review. I talked about some spoilery stuff with the first season. But the second season is almost going to be deserving of several videos if I ever do reviews or reactions or anything, because so much has happened in the second season. In the first half, it was its own arc. The second half thus far is seemingly its own thing, and it's freaking mind-blowing. It's crazy. It's absolutely insane. The whole reason the lodges are starting trouble in Riverdale to begin with. It's all about vying for property and ownership and making tons of money, by making ill-gotten deals behind closed doors. And it's threatening to jeopardize the Southside Serpents, the sort of biker gang that Jughead's father is the leader of, and it's threatening to make a lot of their people homeless, because the mobile home community they all live in is subject to these land dealings and everything, and that's why Jughead's going after the lodges and going after the mayor, and this is causing all this havoc. It's gobsmacking. And the performances, the actors all throughout, everyone is expertly cast. They are brilliant performers all, and the writing is just exemplary. So far as I'm concerned. So yeah, I'd love to hear from you guys in the comments below if you've ever watched this show, if you've given it the time of day, if you enjoy it as much as I did. If not, why not? Let me know that in the comments below. If you think it's just so much CW trash, as I've heard people refer to other shows from that particular channel. But no, this one, it had me hook, line, and sinker from the first season, and that goes bar none once again for season 2. So yeah, otherwise it'll be pretty much it for me on this. I can't wait to see where the hell this season goes from this point on, and I'll catch y'all later. Peace.